4 years they'd managed to stay one step ahead. New states, new addresses, new justifications. "We're not hurting anyone," Kody had said to every camera that would listen. "We're just living according to faith." But the law didn't care about faith. It cared about proof, and the Browns had left a decade of it on national television. Now the family who had welcomed America into their home was soon going to be judged by America in court. When a family built on love has to defend itself in front of strangers, who decides what's right? That's what this trial would determine. In the run-up to the hearing, the formerly tight wives hardly communicated. Mary lingered mostly upstairs, her eyes sunken from sleepless nights. Christine filled and refilled the same bag 3 times. Janelle attempted to broker a peace, she always did, but even she couldn't halt what was on its way. And Robin wept. Stealthily. Sometimes in the pantry, sometimes under the shower. She never was very adept at concealing it. Kody wandered the hallways, a man misplaced in his own home. His voice, once confident, now faded away in mid-sentence. He was no longer a husband. He was a defendant. The initial court hearing was scheduled for March 12th. The state charged them with conspiring to keep an unlawful polygamous household. The wives could each serve up to 5 years in prison. Their attorney, an ambitious woman named Dana Caldwell, cautioned them bluntly. "The cameras will want your tears. The prosecutors will want your silence. Choose now which they'll receive." In cases like these, truth is not always the victor. It's whoever holds out longest under stress. The evening before court, the Browns had dinner together. The atmosphere was tense, like before lightning. No one prayed this time. Not even Kody. Christine broke the silence. "Used to think God was testing us. Maybe we were just testing one another." There was no reply. On the other side of the table, Robin's hands shook as she picked up her glass. Her gaze went to Kody, seeking something she didn't see. Mary averted her eyes. Janelle whispered, "We're still a family." But even she didn't sound convinced. The courthouse steps were already crowded with reporters. "Reality show on trial," shouted one headline. The air buzzed with microphones, lenses, and whispers. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed like bees. The smell, a mix of coffee, old wood, and tension, filled the room. The wives sat shoulder to shoulder, a few inches of distance that had stretched out to feel like miles. Kody sat in front of them, shoulders tense, with his attorney. Then the prosecutor walked in. Evelyn Sharp, whose icy calm and merciless cross-examinations had sent defense attorneys into panic. She didn't look at them. She didn't have to. The judge put on his glasses. This court is now in session. And like that, decades of secrecy, religion, and family meals became evidence. The prosecutor started. "Your Honor, this isn't a religious case. It's a case of deceit, on television for millions of people to see. Defendants referred to it as faith. The law refers to it as fraud." A low rumble ran through the gallery. Cameras were forbidden inside, but it was irrelevant. The entire nation would be hearing the words before too long. Sometimes the loudest silence in a courtroom is when love itself is on trial. Dana Caldwell rose to reply, her voice sharp, measured, practiced. "My clients are not criminals. They're a family, unorthodox, sure, but bound by belief, not lies. This trial is not about law. It's about fear. Fear of difference." The judge nodded slightly. The first day was procedural motions, legal banter, but the tension never dissipated. By lunch, Robin wasn't able to eat. Mary gazed at her image in the shiny wood. Christine continued to whisper to Dana, "Can they actually send us to jail for this?" Donna's response was low, "If we lose, yes." That evening, the courthouse steps were vacant, but it had only just started to storm. On the web, feelings divided like lightning. Some demanding freedom, others demanding punishment. Within a rented Airbnb, the wives were quiet. Then Christine broke that silence. "Kody, tell us you have a plan." Kody let out a sigh. "My plan is to win." Robin's voice quivered. "We're losing each other, Kody. What's the point of winning if there's nothing left?" He did not reply. When you battle the world, you stand together, or you fracture apart, one truth at a time. The next morning, Dana summoned her first witness, Kody Brown. Eyes all turned her way as she glided to the stand. Her heels clicked like gunfire in the silent room. Kody was proud for a moment. until he noticed the way Christine wouldn't meet his gaze. The oath was recited. The air grew tense. The prosecutor smiled faintly. "Mrs. Brown," she started, "would you characterize your marriage to Mr. Brown as being on equal terms?" Christine paused. Her throat convulsed as she swallowed. "First yes. And later?" Christina's eyes darted towards Kody. Her voice shook. "Later, control was the issue." The room went silent. Even the judge glanced up. Kody's face clenched. Robin's eyes went wide. Janelle's hands clenched tighter. Christine went on, voice firmer now. "He made promises to all of us, but he only kept one, the one that suited him." The prosecutor leaned closer. "So you're saying Mr. Brown's plural marriage was built on lies?" Christine's voice cracked. "No. I'm saying it was built on love that turned into lies." And with that, the trial truly began. Secrets don't survive the courtroom. They just wait for the right question to burn them alive. Outside, only shadows departed the courthouse. Inside, the Fishers had finally appeared. Tomorrow Christine would complete her testimony. And someone, possibly Kody, possibly Robin, would finally break. But before that day comes, ask me this. If love itself were against the law, would you continue to fight for it? Leave your response in the comments section below. It started with a knock, gentle, respectful, but weighted with menace. Within the Brown household, 4 women were caught in mid-action. Morning light fell upon half-finished bowls of cereal and bleary eyes. Robin's spoon fell from her grasp, Christina's gaze shot toward the door, and Kody remained completely still. He knew what was approaching. The envelope on the table was stamped with the Utah state seal. Within, a subpoena. The family was being prosecuted under the new covenant law, a renewed prohibition against plural marriage. This time it wasn't rumor or gossip. It was a court summons. 4 years they'd lived on borrowed time, new zip codes, quiet neighborhoods, the illusion of safety. Kody always said, "We're not hiding. We're protecting love." Cameras have followed them everywhere. But even fame couldn't shield them from the law. That night, silence filled the kitchen where laughter once lived. Mary sat by the window, her reflection ghost-thin against the glass. Janelle tried to smooth things over, whispering, "We'll get through this." Christine kept pacing, a suitcase half-packed beside her. Robin cried in the pantry, the sound muffled by canned goods and fear. Every family has secrets, but only some get tested in front of the whole world. The first hearing was set for March 12. Each wife faced up to 5 years if convicted. Their lawyer, Dana Caldwell, a sharp-eyed woman with calm confidence, laid it out. The cameras will want your tears. The prosecutors will want your silence. Decide which you'll give them. When the courthouse doors opened, reporters poured out onto the steps. Coffee, rain, and tension hung in the air. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed like agitated bees. The judge appeared, and with one tap of the gavel, their story became evidence. Prosecutor Evelyn Sharp stood first, her tone sharp but measured. "Your Honor, this is not a religious case. It is a case of deceit," beamed squarely on national television. The words hung in the air. Cameras were forbidden, and yet everyone felt observed. Dana Caldwell retorted quietly, "My clients are not criminals. They are a family, imperfect but devoted. The law is afraid of what it does not know." The judge listened, expression impassive. At recess, Christine barely whispered, "Can they send us to jail for loving each other?" Donna's response was nearly gentle, "If we lose." That evening, in the house they were renting, nobody ate. Robin's shaking hands went out for Kody's, but he stood there, half commander, half defendant. "Well, when," he said. Nobody repeated him. When love stands trial, truth becomes its most dangerous witness. The following morning, Christine testified. Her heels hit the floor with gunshot sounds in the hush. "Mrs. Brown," inquired the prosecutor, "was your marriage an equal one?" Initially she breathed softly, yes. And later? It was control. The courtroom fell silent. The trial had officially commenced. Soft fade, "Before we proceed, reply in comments. If love was illegal, would you still rebel for it?" The air inside the courtroom seemed denser than ever, as if breathing became costly. Christine was seated upright, fists balled on the witness stand. Kody observed her across the room, not with hostility but incredulity. "You indicate the marriage was control," Prosecutor Sharp said again. Can you clarify that to the court? Christina's voice was firm now, but her eyes shone. He dictated when we moved, who we met, even what we said on television. He'd say it was leadership. I'd say it was fear of losing something he couldn't control. Robin shifted restlessly. Janelle's mouth compressed into a thin line. Mary looked away. Dana, their attorney, leaned and whispered something to Christine, but it was too late. The words were already resonating around the room. Once truth begins bleeding in court, nobody can stop the flood. Evelyn Sharp leaned forward, her voice cutting the air. Did Mr. Brown ever instruct you to lie for the show? To guard his reputation? Christine hesitated, a beat too long. He didn't have to tell me, she whispered. We all knew the script. Kody's jaw clenched. That's not true, he grumbled. But the judge clamped him down with a look. For the first time, the man who had dominated the headlines seemed small. Outside, the storm clouds rolled in literal ones, dark against the Utah sky. Inside, Dana Caldwell stood, quiet and purposeful. Christine, she said softly, how did you remain so long? Because I was lying to myself. Because I was lying to both of us. Her voice cracked, tears brimming, raw and honest. But faith doesn't hold when you no longer know the person next to you. The courtroom remained still. Journalists wrote frantically. Robin pushed tears from her eyes. Janelle gazed at Christine, not with bitterness but with something akin to relief. Sometimes courage isn't walking away. It's finally telling the truth out loud. When the judge dismissed for the day, Kody attempted to grab her. Christine did not turn around. The space between them had never been quantified in miles, but only silence. Tomorrow Robin would testify, and her words would flip every truth on its head. The courthouse reeked of rain and cold coffee the next morning. Reporters stood crowded on the steps once again, their cameras stalking tears. Inside, all eyes fixed on Robin Brown, the youngest wife, the one America once referred to as the favorite. She was fragile and pale blue, her hands trembling as she placed her hand on the Bible and took the oath. Do you promise to tell the truth? I do. Her voice was barely audible. Evelyn Sharp stepped forward cautiously, as a lion creeps around its prey. Mrs. Brown, you were Kody's legally wedded wife, right? Yes. And the only one with a marriage certificate? That's right. Kody's eyes flicked toward her, telling her to hold at that, but Robin didn't. I didn't request it, she breathed. He said it was for the children. But it shifted everything. Now the other wives weren't wives any longer, they were, she hesitated. The courtroom held its breath. They were background figures in his narrative. Mara's eyes welled up with tears. Christine turned her head. Janelle's jaw was shaking, but she managed to keep going. The hardest realities are the ones that shatter the individuals you remain to love. Dana Caldwell stood up respectfully for cross-examination. Robin, did you feel you were being pressured to go along with this setup? Robin nodded. Every single day. We had cameras in our faces and heads say smile. But behind those smiles were rules, where to sit, what to say, how to pretend like we were all happy. A wave of whispers swept through the gallery. Even the judge leaned forward. And were you? Dana asked gently. Happy. Robin blinked hard. Just scared. The silence that followed was like confession. Kody was empty, shrinking under the burden of words he couldn't contain. When love becomes performance, the act always ends in heartbreak. Robin's voice broke as she glanced over at Kody. I still love him. But love isn't supposed to hurt everyone else in the room. The courtroom went quiet. And just as the judge said recess, Evelyn Sharp rose again. Your Honor, the prosecution is going to bring new evidence tomorrow. Something out of the defendant's own tapes. Kody went white. Low whisper fading. Whatever was on those tapes, it could all be over for them. The next day the courthouse was charged. Reporters packed all the hallways, murmuring about the tapes. Even the air seemed charged, like just before thunder. Kody came early, face clenched, jaw jutting. The wives came separately today. Christine gave him a sidestep. Robin appeared ashy, holding a tissue like a lifeline. The judge called for order before prosecutor Evelyn Sharp moved forward, holding a flash drive. Your Honor, she said, the prosecution has secured footage shot by the defendants themselves on the set of their reality show. Footage never broadcast. Dana Caldwell sprang to her feet. Objection. This was private information, not public record. It's Discovery Counselor, Evelyn calmly answered. And it speaks for itself. The judge permitted it. The lights went down. The screen came on. The courtroom saw the family on screen, seated in their old dining table, smiling, laughing, faking. Then Kody's voice interrupted. Don't bring up the fight with Christine, okay? We'll reshoot that. Robin, just say you're grateful, not guilty. It'll look better. A gasp moved through the room. Mary covered her mouth. Christine's eyes filled with tears she didn't wipe away. When the mask slips in front of the world, even silence sounds like betrayal. Kody tried to speak, but the judge stopped him. You'll have your chance, Mr. Brown. The video went on, snippets of control masquerading as family harmony. Janelle's voice could be heard whispering gently, I don't know how much longer I can fake this. When the lights flickered back on, no one could look anyone in the eye. The facade was shattered. Dana leaned across her clients. We can't reverse this, she said in a whisper. Kody let out a slow, heavy sigh. They don't get it, he said, but his words faltered. With each trial there comes a point when truth ceases to be evidence and crosses over into punishment. Outside the crowd went wild. Inside Robin cried silently, openly weeping. Christine remained still. The judge adjourned for recess once more, but no one stirred. The Browns had constructed their existence on image and love, and both had just broken on television. Tomorrow Mary would testify, and her secret could destroy whatever remained.